The three, that'd be great. Hi guys, D Hughes here, Loan Depot, and this is my daughter.
Kiana Hughes.
All right, hey, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna try and give you guys a quick video. Kiana says that people's attention spans aren't that long, which is why Vine was only
6 seconds.
6 seconds. So we're gonna try and keep it as quickly as possible, but I don't know how we're gonna keep it down to like 3 minutes. But this is what we're talking about. We're talking about short-term mortgages. Okay, short-term mortgages, and there are two words you say we should definitely talk about, which is
sacrifice
and save. All right, so here's what we're looking at. We're just going to take, for example, for you guys, you can think through it on your own. But with Kiana, she goes off to college probably in the next 3 years. Okay, so and college costs about how much per year?
Well, your first year would be 16 to 17,000, and then that's with your meal plan and freshman and staying on campus, and then your sophomore or junior, when you're off campus, that'll be between 13 to 14,000.
And this now for us, our plan is to purchase a small investment property near the school. She can get roommates, put the parents on the lease agreements, and that way they can cover that expense. But that's just how I do things. You may not want to have the burden of having the rental property, but that's what I do. So what we did some years ago in preparation for Kiana going to school, because I don't believe in student loans.
We don't believe in that, especially in America right now. A lot of people have debt.
I don't believe in student loans.
We don't believe in student loans.
We're just going to leave it right there. No, I'm just kidding.
Leave it.
We're just going to leave it. So that's the inside joke. We're not going to, no student loans. So I keep getting these clients with $150,000 on student loans, blah, blah, blah. We don't want to do it. So here's the plan. I took a property that I own as an investment property. I reduced the financing down to like a very short-term mortgage. The goal was to have that property paid off prior to Kiana going off to school, allow that rent roll to cover me on a monthly basis, to cover Kiana's school, also create an additional pension. What does that mean if I slow it down? That means we say, look, we have this property. Let's not sell it and buy the next property. Let's just turn it into a rental, but let's do it on a short-term mortgage. That short-term mortgage is going to be, I'm not going to cash flow during the time that it's being rented, but it's going to pay off a lot sooner. So that then covers Kiana's schooling. So if you take $16,000, $17,000, it averages out to about how much per month? About
1,333.
1,333. I think that's about 16 divided by the by 12. Okay, so now the property that we have, we're looking at how much it would rent for at the time we had it. At the time we first turned it into a rental, it was about renting for maybe like $1,200. But when you take the average cost of increase, average rent increase, it'll rent for right now actually rents for about $1,400, and we're looking at it getting up to about $1,550 by the time Kiana goes out in 3 years.
Yeah.
This isn't the gospel. This is just anticipating. It's a theory. It's an educated guess. It's based on past historic numbers. Okay, so then that monthly mortgage, that rent roll that comes in covers Kiana's school. Now, if the tenant isn't paying rent that month and I have to do an eviction and I'm out 2 or 3 months, that means I pay for it. However, the majority of the time the rent is getting paid without any problem. I haven't had any problems yet, and they've been over a decade, and it just keeps covering. It'll keep covering.
Yeah.
Now, this doesn't mean you have to go out and get an investment property to do it. It's a cool idea. I actually got this idea from a realtor back in 2005. And then I put this action into play in 2006.
Good ideas.
Okay, so that house is paid for by the time Kiana goes off to school. Short-term mortgages, okay? So another thing, let's say you have a primary residence. You say, D, I'm really not interested in investment property. Take your primary residence, for example. If it's a $250,000 mortgage, this goes to what Kiana said before, which was sacrifice. Go ahead and sacrifice. Take your current mortgage, put it into a 15. If it's a $250,000 loan, you're probably looking at a $600 difference in payment. $600 difference in payment. So you have to then do what? Your turn. Sacrifice. Pay the extra $600 on a do a 15-year mortgage.
It's a lot faster than a 30-year mortgage.
Absolutely. You're stuck. So people say, well, I just pay extra. Everyone says they're going to pay extra. No one does it consistently for 12, 13, 14 years, okay? So it's when you're doing a budget and when you're setting a plan, you have to also keep in mind your personality and your limitations, your strengths and your weaknesses.
Right.
So for most people, life happens, and life happens to us all. So for me, I say, you know what? I'm just going to hook or crook. I'm paying that mortgage. So I'm just going to put it on a 15-year mortgage, and no matter what, I'm going to get it covered.
Force yourself to do it.
Absolutely.
You'll be stuck in a 30-year mortgage.
And then 15. Now, so let's say, for example, this. Let's say in 7.5 years on that $250,000 house that you sacrificed, pay an extra $600 a month, In 7.5 years, you owe $142,000. You have over $100,000 in equity in the house already.
Yep.
That's it. You paid it down over $100,000 in 7.5 years. Plus, the house is probably going up in value roughly around 3% per year.
Helping yourself.
Guess how much you owe on the 30-year mortgage, Kiana? That number right there. $213,000 in 7.5 years. I would much rather owe $142,000 versus $213,000 in 7.5 years. Now, in 15 years, how much do you owe? Zero on a 15-year mortgage. How much do you owe on a 30-year mortgage after 15 years? That number right there, Kiana.
$163,000
in 15 years.
faster.
Much faster. That's right. Now, at 15 years, you should have your mortgage paid off at a minimum of how many years before retirement, Kiana?
10
years.
10 years.
Exactly.
Okay. 10 years.
These are my recommendations. This isn't the gospel. This is my thoughts. You come up with your own. I just know my mortgage, I'm not paying it. 10 years before my retirement, I don't
You
want
got to
it.
be smart with your money. Saving. You can use things to pay off other things. For example, the college. You can use investment properties to pay off your college. So these things help you, and you can live a lot easier. If you're living stuck with a 30-year mortgage, you have limitations.
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 Yeah, I can't even say it right now. You got it so wrong.
You have to.
You'll be limited, basically.
If you sacrifice at the beginning, you can live a lot easier. If
Exactly.
you don't sacrifice, you're going to continue to be stuck in the same things that you're doing.
Right. So some people say, well, what if you can't afford a 15-year mortgage? Well, maybe buy a smaller house.
It'd be a lot easier.
Maybe you cut off, maybe you, or look at your budget. One thing that we're putting together in the workbook is, if you can't do it now, structure a plan so that you can do it later.
Yep.
Doesn't mean just because you can't do it right now, do it later. So if you have a home now, $25,000, like, D, well, I can't afford $2,100 a month. I can afford the $1,500. No problem. Take your budget, start paying off all of your debt outside of your mortgage, and then once all that's done, you can then restructure your financing into a 15-year mortgage. Now, let's say it takes you 5 years to do it. Restructure into a 10-year mortgage. It would have been paying down. It would have paid down some more for an additional 5 years, so you owe less, and you don't have any other expenses. And if it fits within your budget, restructure it down to a 10-year mortgage. The whole plan is if you can have it paid off 10 years prior to retirement, that's one goal. Another goal is to have it paid off prior to your kids going to school. It can then fuel it. Now, some people say, well, I'll just sell the house and just take the proceeds to pay for my kids' school. Well, then the house is gone, then the kids' school are paid. That's one idea. I like the idea of having the house there to cover the schooling, and then once the kid is out of school, guess what I still have? I still have the house. Now, if this $250,000 house is paid for, and let's say I'm going to go ahead and buy something else. Let's say I'm going to buy something cash, little townhouse or whatever. I still have this house, and it'll still fuel retirement. But let's look at it from a different angle. Let's say, for example, the house is paid off. We're talking about no longer talking about the kids' school. We're talking about just having your house paid off 10 years prior to retirement. Okay, so 10 years is 120 months, right?
Yep.
Okay, so if your mortgage is, say, $2,100 per month, okay, 2,100 times 20 months, 120. Okay, but we're talking about $252,000. That means you could have put away the money that you would have put in that on that mortgage, since it's not paid off 10 years prior to you retiring. You're talking about putting away an additional $252,000. We're not adding any interest. You can go online, find a calculator to project out based on a rate of return of 4%, 3%, 7%, whatever. We're just talking about like really minimum.
It's better to know now than to be lost and just not know at all. Because, I can't do it now. Well, know what you can do later instead of just not knowing at all. You'll never know. You'll never know if you have enough. You'll be stuck. It's better to be prepared than not to be prepared at all.
Yeah, and let me sum that up to make certain that we're all on the same page. So it's best, even though you can't do it now, don't just say forget about it, is what I believe Kiana's trying to say.
Yeah.
Structure a plan so that you can execute on it later. Okay, that means you may have to pay the car off. You may have to pay off all your credit cards, whatever. And it may take you 5 years. Take 5 years. Pay all that stuff off. And then when it's now feasible, or then feasible, you can initiate that plan. Okay, so I've started some properties that I purchased on short-term mortgages, and some of those I started with 30 and refinanced them to a 15-year mortgage. Or in some of them I did into a 10. So that's $252,000. So if on your primary residence, if you were able to adjust your budget and do a 15-year mortgage, And then in 15 years, it's paid off 10 years prior to, you just saved an additional $252,000. Now, if your retirement, you're going to retire at 67. I am eligible for Social Security at 67. So hypothetically, if I retired at 67, and life expectancy is now what? 77. I'm not sure that's the Generation X or the millennials, but I do know that current life expectancy is around 77 years. So that's another 120 months, right? That I can divide that money. But we're going to say 77 plus 5, which is going to put us at 82 years. So now I'm talking about 12 years. So I really should say 12 times 2, which is 144 months. I should be able to take that $152,000
and finance it for those.
Not finance it, but $252,000, and I'm going to divide that by 144 months, and I'm looking at basically an income of $17,000. I just created a freaking pension that will last 5 years beyond life expectancy. Yeah. And if you haven't noticed by the video that black male, our life expectancy is like
70?
Shorter.
It's shorter than
I think it's like 72 or 73, somewhere around there. I don't know. I'm trying to eat well and go to the gym, so hopefully I can make it to 77 and beyond.
And beyond that. I don't need him to be gone.
Yeah, we want to be gone. Is it? So, hey, this is just a cool little fun video. We thought about it at the last minute. I just want you guys to just start chewing on a few things. It isn't our plan, may not necessarily be the plan that you take into consideration. However, we may have said something in these 11 minutes, it goes by so quickly, that you may that may promote some thought. You may start saying, well, man, how would it look if I put this into a 15? Give me a call. I'd love to give you some scenarios. I can run through some scenarios with you. I can help you build a plan. Yeah. I am the strategic lender. Any rookie can give you a rate and a payment. Right. Let us help you. Let us help you structure a plan of action and fit your mortgage into your retirement. What are you going to miss if you don't work with D. Hughes? 919-946-0423. 919-946-0423. And we out.